Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this, which is the Walrus Audio Mira Compressor. Now, if I had to choose and only have two pedals on my pedal board, I would choose a boost pedal and a compressor. The Walrus Audio Mira Compressor is an optical compressor. Now, what that means is it uses a light cell for the compression. And what you tend to get with optical compressors is a smoother sounding compression than you would get from, say, like a VCA or a FET style compressor. And if I'm mixing in the studio, an optical compressor would be my go-to, especially for mixing things like vocals. I've created this dotted eighth note patch on my Axe effects. So what I'm going to do is show the difference with or without compression. Here's without first of all. Now if I bring in the Mira compressor, hear how much more snap the guitar's got. Unlike a lot of pedal-based compressors, the Mira has got all the controls you're going to need to create the perfect compression for your guitar. Let's go through all the controls on the Mira. First of all, you've got threshold, then ratio, the makeup gain, I'll explain all these in a minute, level and blend. And you've also got these mini pots down here for attack and release. On every single one of my pedal boards, I have a compressor. And one of the most important controls on a compressor for me is a mix control or a blend control. So what you can do with the Mira is to make it 100% compression by turning up the blend. Or you can blend in your amount of clean sound. So I can have it completely clean with no compression. And then dial in the amount of compression that I need. Now with this, I can completely change the sound of my dynamics. So for instance, I've got loads of dynamics the way that I've got it set up because I've got the attack quite slow and the release quite fast with the blend about 30%. Now if I take it the other way, if I turn the blend up full, let's slow down the release and speed up the attack. With these settings, the compressor is going to grab my notes quicker and I'm going to lose dynamics on the guitar. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. If I want to create a part where I want all of my notes to be exactly the same volume, so if I pick from really softly to loud, you'll hear that I'm changing the whole dynamic response of my playing. Now if I take that compressor out and I do the same thing, I get a lot wider range of dynamics. Now personally, I wouldn't use a compressor like this as I like to have some dynamics in my playing. So the way that I like to set up a compressor like this is to have a slower attack, a faster release. What's happening now when I play is the initial transient is going to go through, but as the note dies out, it sustains that note. Now let's leave it with the blend up full. So now I still retain some of those dynamics, but I can increase that even more by letting more dynamics through by bringing back the blend or the mix control. So to me, a compressor setup like this is really great because, as I said, the initial transient is going to poke through, but as the note gets quieter, it's going to bring up that note as the note's dying. Now that's especially good if you've got a guitar that's not very resonant. I mean, this one is, but if you do have a guitar that's not very resonant, the compressor can be used in that way to bring up the sustain of the guitar. Now let's try it with some overdriven tones. Now with the Mira compressor, because we have an attack and release control, we can actually bring up the pick attack of our lead lines. Let's take it out. Now, another great reason for having a compressor on your board, and the Mira does this especially well because you do have those attack and release controls, is if you've got a guitar that's got, say, split coils, and your humbuckers are much louder than your single coils, you can actually reduce that difference by using a compressor. So I'll show you the difference. If I switch it into my split coil mode, and now bring it onto the humbucker, you'll hear that there's a big difference between the volume and the gain between the split coil and the humbucker. Now if I bring in the Mira, let's bring the blend up a little bit, and then just slow down the attack just so we're grabbing the note. Here's the humbucker, and now here's the single coil. So this Mira compressor can do anything from a 1:1 compression ratio, which is letting loads of those dynamics through, if you take it the other way, it could do 20:1, which is limiting. So if we have it set up like this and I bring the blend control so it's 100% wet, we're going to get almost no dynamics. Which is great for some funk stuff. So let's have a look at all the controls on this. First of all, you've got your threshold. Now this is the point at which the compressor kicks in. So if I take it completely out, so we're getting no compression at all. If I bring the threshold back, you'll hear now the compressor is starting to grab those peaks and bring them down. Your ratio control, this goes from 1:1 compression all the way up to 20:1, which is limiting. Now personally, I like a lower compression ratio as I don't really want to notice the compression when I'm playing. So personally, I like it anything from like this 1:1, I'd say to about 4:1, which is about there. Now with that, you're just shaving off those peaks. But it's still letting loads of the dynamics through. Your makeup gain, now what happens with compression, because you're reducing the level, the makeup gain actually pushes the gain back up to where you were without the compression. Now you've got your level control as well, that's the overall volume. Your blend control, as I said earlier, which is your mix control from 100% wet to 100% dry. And again, personally, I like it anywhere sort of 30% to sort of 60%. And then you've got your attack and release on these little mini controls down here. Now your attack is how quickly the compressor reacts to the signal, and the release is how quickly it releases the compression. Now as a rule, I like a slower attack and a faster release with the blend control about there. And lastly, if I turn the pedal on its side, you'll see we've got this side chain high pass filter. Now, if you're using a guitar, say like a 7/8 string guitar or a bass guitar, and you still want to use this compressor, by engaging that switch, that's going to let some of the lower frequencies through without the compressor over grabbing those low notes. So there you go, that's the Walrus Audio Mira compressor. Now personally, I think this is an absolutely fantastic sounding compressor. You've got all the controls that you need without getting sort of too overboard and making things too complicated. It sounds fantastic, you can really get any level of compression that you want. And now really this is going to be my go-to compressor on my main board. Anyway, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. I really hope you guys got something out of this. If you did get something out of this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, click on the bell button and you'll be notified of any future video that comes out from the Studio Rats. I'm Paul and I'll see you next time. Cheers.